Hey, this is the Pizza here, and this video is going to be all about transmutation. So to get started on transmutation, you're going to want to go to Lower City west of Varanus, or the Central Plaza in Obsidian Stronghold, and look for the enchanters and disenchanters, because they're going to be the ones providing the necessary materials for transmuting. So there's a couple things you'll need before you can start. First thing you'll need is transmuter charges. Now if you're going to do basic transmutation, you'll need at least 4 charges. And that's if you're going to just combine 3 mana stones into one item to put stats on that item. And I'll get into what mana stones are later on. So you're going to need at least 4 charges, and you can buy charges from the item shop, which it's 300 Furious tokens for 10 charges. So there's a couple other ways you can get charges too. You can buy them for 1 apiece for 30 tokens each. So it's the same rate, but you're only getting 1. So in case you don't need all 10. Or you can level up an alt to level 10. And in the class hall, you'll find a quest that activates your arcane transmuter, and you'll instantly get 10 charges. But you can't transfer the charges from one character to another. So if you need to transmute soulbound equipment from one character and you need to use the charges on another character, you can't have that happen. So once you find the enchanters and disenchanters, you're going to want to buy some fusion stones. Fusion stones will become your worst enemy. The thing about fusion stones is that they're randomized. They come with 1 or 2 set stats, but the other stats on the fusion stone are completely randomized. So, and you want to try to get fusion stones that match each other. So it can take quite a while to get a matching pair of 3 fusion stones, because you'll need at least 3 matching fusion stones to transmute one item. And what I do is I buy the fusion stones that give me the +3 stamina and then 2 random attributes. And what I do is I keep buying them until I get 2 stat fusion stones, and I keep the 2 stat ones, and then I just keep every single 2 stat. I don't care if it matches one that I already have or not, because eventually I'll get 3 pair with the ones I have. And each fusion stone costs about 6,000 gold, and when you're buying 20 to 30 fusion stones for one item, it's a very costly process to transmute items. So be prepared to spend a lot of money. And you'll also need a couple more things before you can start transmuting. You'll need armor that has the stats you want. It can't be weapons, because for some reason stats from weapons do not transfer over on fusion stones. So let's say you have an axe that gives you +35 stamina, and you want to transmute that onto another item. You can't do that. But if you have a helmet that gives you +35 stamina, you can. And you'll also need an item that you're going to transmute all those stats to, which, if you're a tank like me, you want it to have at least 110 durability. So that's usually going to require you to scour the auction house or do a lot of dungeon raiding and look for that one item that you get. And you'll probably need to do some stat farming too when you run out of stats that you can put on items. So once you have all that, you're going to want to start getting the stats off the items and putting them into mana stones. So here you can see I have a belt and a fusion stone. I combine the belt and the fusion stone, and it gives me a mana stone. The mana stone is the same tier as the item you transmuted. So if you have a tier 3 item, it'll give you a tier 3 mana stone. And the mana stone will keep the 2 stats that are on the fusion stones, and it will also take the 1 or 2 stats from whatever item you're transmuting. So you're gonna need, like I said, at least 3 mana stones because you're going to want to use 3 fusion stones. And then once you have 3 mana stones, you combine those 3 mana stones with the one item you want to transmute. Or you could combine those 3 mana stones to make a mana stone of a higher tier. So you can combine 3 mana stone tier 3s to make a mana stone tier 4. And be sure to look in the preview window in your arcane transmuter before you transmute to make sure it's what you want. And when you transmute, the item that you're sending the stats to will give you the 6 lowest stats from the 3 mana stones. So that's why you need the same stats on those 3 fusion stones, because the fusion stones will always have the lowest stats, because you're not going to transmute, you know, a life 1 or a stamina 1 or whatever. So I'll try to give an example to try to make more sense of what you'll get when you transmute. So let's say you have 3 fusion stones that all have plus 3 stamina and plus 5 dark resistance. And then you combine those fusion stones with items to get 3 mana stones that have plus 3 stamina, plus 5 dark resistance from the 3 fusion stones, and then one item may have plus 28 stamina, plus 35 stamina, and plus 22 stamina that you pulled off another item. So if there's a repeat of the same stat, it'll overlap it. So if you have those 3 plus 3 staminas and 3 plus 5 dark resistance from the fusion stones, they overlap and just become 1 plus 3 stamina and 1 plus 5 dark resistance. So it only counts as 2 stats rather than counting as 6 stats. So then the 3 stats you pulled from the items are the only stats left to transmute and get transferred to your item. I'm sorry if this is a little hard to understand, but it's kind of difficult to explain the whole system because it's a little complicated. But once you get into it and you start to realize the patterns and how everything works, it'll become second nature. So once you have your item, you're probably going to want to make it stronger than what you already have. So what you do then is you buy moon jewels or whatever kind of jewel you need to plus the item, which will increase some of its stats, and depending on what type of item, it will give it some extra stats. So like a plus 1 item may have plus 5 stamina added to it just because it's plus 1. And you'll also learn to hate the vendor jewels because it's kind of like a gambling system. They have a large chance of failure and a small chance of success, and you need back-to-back successes to level up an item. So one success will give you level 1, 2 successes in a row will give you level 2. But if you, let's say you get to level 1, then you get a failure, it goes back down to level 0. You get to level 2, you get a failure, it goes back down to level 1. If you fail again, it's back down to level 0 again. So with vendor jewels, I usually stop at plus 2 because it's not worth risking all the extra money to try to get it to plus 3. So I know this was a lot of information in this guide, and I hope it helped. If there's any questions you have, I'll try to answer them the best I can, because this is the first time I've ever tried to really make a guide on anything. So if there's any confusion, leave a message in the comments, and I'll try to put an annotation somewhere in the video, try to make things more clear. So let me just quickly sum up my views on transmuting. It's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's still a tedious and money and time consuming task, but it's necessary. So it's still not my favorite thing to do, but you gotta do what you gotta do. That's it for this video. Till next time.